Hello, Professor Shubham. Is everything okay?
Yes, please go.
Thank you. Dear Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this is Rudranarayan Das. It's a true pleasure for me to welcome you all to this World Human Sciences and Management Conference 2021, organized by Center for Adivasi Research and Development, Odisha, in association with Indian Institute of Management, Sambalpur, and Central University of Odisha, Koraput. The broader theme of this conference is agnotological context, disciplinary practices of social sciences, and policy frames. On behalf of Center for Adivasi Research and Development, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Professor Mahadev Joyswal, Director, Indian Institute of Management, and late Professor I. Ramabrahmam, former Vice Chancellor, Central University of Odisha, and Professor Sarath Kumar Palita, Dean Biodiversity, Central University of Odisha, and Acting Vice Chancellor of Central University of Odisha for their support and guidance. I would like to thank the convener of this August conference, eminent historian, Professor Chandi Prasad Nanda, and eminent polity activist, writer, and philanthropist, Mr. Charudat Panigrahiji. Friends, in this evening, we have with us Professor Mrinal Chatterjee. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Nupur Patnaik to introduce Professor Mrinal Chatterjee. Over to you, Dr. Nupur.
Yeah, a very good evening. First of all, thank you, Rudra. And first of all, good evening to Professor Mrinal, sir. Mrinal Chatterjee is a media educator, author and trainer from Odisha, India, and works as a professor and center head in the Indian Institute of Mass Comm, Dhenkanal. He is the author of the book History of Journalism in Odisha, which is the first major publication on the history of journalism in Odisha. Sir has completed his MA, MMC, PhD from Barampur University, Utkal University, Guru Jambheleshwar University. Sir has an immense contribution to the field, which includes 10 novel publications, 7 short story collections, and a series of columns in Odia and many other languages. Sir, there are many more to say about sir, but these are very few to say. To have over here, and sir is going to give his perspective on media in the time of pandemic, rebooting the praxis framework. So thank you, sir. We are really eager to listen to you. Thank you so much, sir. So next to Rudra to call sir. Sir, I would like to invite you, sir, so you could give your perspective, sir, media in the time of pandemic, rebooting the praxis framework.
Thank you. May I first thank the organizers for giving me this opportunity to speak on a very interesting and important subject. Now, in this pandemic period, journalism has always been important for society. It assumed more importance during this pandemic time because all of us, we were locked down. So were our friends, relatives at some other places. We were eager to know about them. And here comes the role of journalism. They give us information, they give us noise. We wanted to make sense of the situation. We wanted to know more about this virus, which spread all over the world and locked down the world in 21st century, when we have conquered moon some 50 years ago. We are about to go to Mars. The entire world is locked down. So may I begin from this? What are the objectives of journalism? And then we will come to praxis and other stuff. Debates over the nature and objective of journalism are age-old. There have been debates over whether journalism is modeled as a social action, as social system, as popular culture, or it has a normative function. This determines the relationship between news media and its audience. I'll not go into that debate and take all these as objectives of journalism. All these, the four things that I just told you. Now, this pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic, has affected and killed millions around the globe for over 18 months now, and hardly shows any sign of abating. Whenever we think that this pandemic is going away, scientists warn us the next wave is coming. Now, we are looking towards the probable break of the third wave of coronavirus, which the scientists warn us will be more dangerous than the previous two versions of two waves of corona. It's mutating and this and that. So the coronavirus has affected every part of our life and living, including our livelihood, economy, health, education, so on and so forth. Journalism, which, if we go to the very basics, is collection and collation of information. It also analyzes and records events and issues and disseminates to masses. That's the basic work of journalism. That has also been impacted. The process of journalism, the way news is collected, collated, and disseminated, formatted, displayed, and the business of journalism. Journalism is also an industry. The business of journalism, footing the news collection expenses, salaries, overhead, monetizing the news, running the entire operation, that has also been impacted very badly. We all know about that. There have been several articles, news features on that in media. Hundreds of journalists have been retrenched. Newspapers have cut down on their pages. Television channels have cut down on their news collection expenses. They have retrenched journalists and this and that. I mean, we all know about that. So basically, what have been the impacts on journalism? I'm not talking now about the business side. Let's see journalism as practiced by journalists, right? The act of journalism, how that has been impacted. Mobility was impacted, and that created a situation where the journalists and the entire journalism, the process, had to depend on technology. So dependence on technology by default increased, right? Because mobility is impacted. We haven't seen this or even heard about this, that the anchor will be sitting at his or her home and anchoring a show which is going live, right? And he or she is in her house or his house with a mobile phone. Right? Never ever we have heard about that. We our students are sub-editors and they do the page making and all in different newspapers. In a national newspaper, the entire page making my student was doing sitting at home. He was working from home. He was transmitting the made-up page to office. There were barely 1 or 2 persons in the office and would be sending this to printing press, and printing press would be printing it. The distance between the press and the office probably would be hundreds of miles. Dependence on technology. This increased. And the second thing that happened in the process of journalism is the very act of getting news became difficult, because there was this fear of getting infected. Right? More than 900 journalists died of pandemic in the last 18 months. About 50 in Odisha. Right? So journalists had to pick up another skill. There are several skill sets that the journalists need to pick up. They needed to pick up another skill set, how to keep yourself safe in a pandemic situation. So that's how the process of journalism was impacted. Now, what about the content? Were there any impact on the content? Yes, there were. Because people wanted to know more about what is happening. Because we were all down and we wanted to know. And we depended on news media to feed us the news. And that need became more pronounced because during this time, fake news were rampant, thanks to mostly to the social media. All kinds of news, all kinds of information. And people eager to get information were gulping down those so-called information, most of which were fake. So that added to the responsibility of responsible news media to provide credible information, believable information, correct information, fact-checked information to the public. So workload increased, difficulties also increased. That was the situation during this pandemic period for journalism. And this situation will remain for the next some years to come. We do not know how many years we need to do. We will have to go through this situation. Now let me talk about what is repositioning. We are talking about repositioning journalism. Hit a pause button and then reposition. What exactly do I mean by reposition? We need to take journalism from the pre-pandemic here and now mode to fact and fallout mode. I need to explain this. Pre-pandemic time, journalism was hurtling towards here and now mode. Everybody wanted to get information fast, quick, now. And news media were obliged to give this kind of information. Right? In a media sphere where 24/7 television channels are there, up to the second online media is there, and everybody is eager to swallow news fast. everybody wants to become sabse tej. There was a kind of a situation where everybody wants to disseminate news first and to get news first. So that situation was there, here and now. Abhi, instant coffee. This happened because of two factors. Thanks to technology, this could be possible. It was not possible, say, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. It was not possible. Now it is possible. And therefore, people wanted this. And the second reason is a kind of a growing culture of what I call instant gratification. It's an all-pervasive kind of a culture which is growing. So the combination of these two was deadly. And media, because it's an industry, a business, there are so many players. We have 100,000 newspapers in India now, 900 plus channels. So the competition is stiff. So therefore, everybody fell for that. So that was a kind of journalism we had before the pandemic. This pandemic stopped everything and forced us to hit the pause button, provided us the time to reflect. Is this the kind of journalism that we want? We had time to reflect. We had opportunity to reflect, right? Because this is the time where instead of getting instant news, people also wanted deeper news. Why is this virus so dangerous? Why is modern science not been able to come up with an antidote? What's so dangerous about this virus, right? So all these questions which needed greater reflection, okay? So the change is from here and now mode to fact and fallout mode. This is the fact and this is the fallout. So explanation, reflection, which used to be the core areas the journalism practiced, moving back to that area, moving back to that mode probably. Now, why repositioning? Why we need to reposition? Because mass of data mean nothing if you cannot figure out what does that mean and how these loads of information is important, relevant to me, my family, my immediate environment, society, the world. The finding out meaning was necessary. And this pandemic time provided us this opportunity, or probably by default, we were put in a situation where we had to reflect. That's why this repositioning of media was necessary. A kind of rebooting of media was necessary. Now, the pandemic pushed the humankind to sit still and rummage about the purpose of life. It has pulled the world economy down, making people think about their survival in terms of food, public health, education, lifestyle. More people are thinking about climate change now, right? The other day, there was a report in a newspaper that Paradip may go washed away by sea, rising sea in about 100 years now. We are concerned about climate change. Not that we are doing something about that, all of us, but the first step is this consciousness that this is going to happen. for the first time in human history, more people are at least thinking about climate change. It has come down to public discourse, right? This has happened. Now, in India, it has made us realize the importance of good monsoon. Because industry is down, service sector is down. The only sector which sustained the economy for the last 18 months is agriculture, in which more people gets sustenance, but it doesn't give much to GDP. All right. So we are again thinking about, oh my God, agriculture is so important, right? And for in India, monsoon is important. So therefore, everybody is concerned about monsoon. Aaya ki nahi, aaya ki nahi, aaya ki nahi. So repositioning. Entire world has paused, or may I say forced to hit the pause button to look and examine the way we are carrying ourselves. Journalism needed to reflect on this. That is why repositioning. Another important point is changed media environment. The new media environment reveals ambiguities and uncertainties, as well as promises and possibilities. It generates manifold issues of inquiry, all of which require a multi-layered thinking and approaches on the part of media scholars. There are two important things now for journalism to negotiate. One is the age-old ethics of journalism. And the second is the technology, the emerging technology. Right? These are the two important things that journalism need to reposition, need to engage with, to reposition itself. Let me talk about technology and changes in that part. The two largest changes in modern journalism strikes at the heart of traditional notions surrounding journalists and news companies. The first is the rise of the blogger and user-based journalism, which has become immensely popular. So the reliance that the entire society had on newspapers, on organized media industry, where there are people who would go through the information. There will be fact checkers, there will be gatekeepers. Right? Gradually, we are losing our reliance on that. Right? Pandemic created a disruption in this trend because we wanted fact. Right? We were losing our faith on newspapers, on news industry, organized news industry. But when we saw that during pandemic, there was an abundance of fake news, we again went back to organized news industry to get credible news. Right? That's one. The second thing is the artificial intelligence, stuff like high-end technology coming into journalism, data journalism, the use of artificial intelligence, immersive technology, augmented reality, all this artificial intelligence backed technology, they have created journalism exciting and also kind of risky to do. You know why? It's because in digital technology, faking is very easy. Abusing technology is very easy with digital technology. And that's why when media engages with this technology, high-end, cutting-edge technology, right, they have to be more responsible. It has greater risk. It has greater power. And along with greater power comes greater responsibility and greater risk. So media industry, when it comes to good journalism, has more power now, but more risk also now. This technology has taken this to this kind of situation. The era of digital evolution has made data valuable, leading to a renewed focus on collecting, processing, and using information to curate targeted content specific to each and every consumer. These are the changes that have happened and probably going more to happen. And that brings me to journalism teaching. The pedagogical changes. Pedagogy is how do you teach? Pedagogical changes that we will encounter, or probably pedagogical changes that we need to bring about in journalism teaching. As new technology emerges and society requires greater and deeper engagement on media and governance, there has been a shift towards what we call constructivist and active learning. So the way we were in with journalism teaching needs to change, because people's engagement with governance via media has increased. I have to little explain what is this constructivism means. Constructivism is the theory that says learners construct knowledge rather than just passively taking information. Right? So journalism teaching needs to follow constructivism. Right? As people experience the world and reflect upon those experiences, they build their own representations and incorporate new information into their pre-existing knowledge. That's what we need to do. Constructivist. Project-based learning, this is a new pedagogy, new tool in pedagogy which is coming up, is one such approach, which underlines social constructivism as its epistemological paradigm. Epistemology is study about knowledge. It encourages students to be independent learners with critical thinking abilities. That is what is more important in journalism, especially in journalism. Critical thinking abilities. It's not just giving information, but to find out what those loads of information do mean, where they point out, what do they indicate, and give it that to the readers, viewers, or whatever. Right? That's more important now. So it goes beyond as a way of learning to more of working together on context-based, authentic, process-oriented projects and tasks. In simple terms, it's an inquiry-based and learner-centered, in-depth investigation of real-world problems through students' use of disciplinary concepts, etc. So we need a kind of pedagogical changes and new pedagogy also. To conclude, I'll take some time to talk about ethics and all, which I guess when we talk about repositioning journalism, rebooting journalism. This is one thing that should be filled with, right? With time, people will pay for quality, credible news, mostly online. That's the model, the revenue model. Most of the good, credible news media is heading towards subscription-based, so that people will pay to get news. As I read, that will reduce their dependence on advertisement. Advertisement, as all of you know, is great power in the hands of advertisers for leverage. Once that is gone, probably newspapers, news agencies, news media would be more independent, hopefully. Now, as readership increases, advertisement revenue will also follow. Problem is not earning money to survive. The problem related to ethics. Will news media save its moral universe? Can it win back its almost lost credibility? Most of you probably have heard a saying. It goes around social media. I do not know who has written this, but it goes like this. पहले जो अखबार छपकर बिकता था, पहले जो अखबार छपकर बिकता था, सुना है अब वो बिककर छपता है. That precisely means, translated into English, I have heard that in earlier times, newspapers used to be printed first and then used to be sold. But now I've heard that it's sold first and then it gets printed. That is the perception. Another says, इतना जमीर तो बचा हुआ है अखबारों में, इतना जमीर तो बचा हुआ है अखबारों में, तारीख और दिन अब भी सही लिखते हैं. This much credibility is there with the newspapers still, that they print the date and day right. That is the perception. Think about what were the perceptions. Let me give you one saying of Akbar Allahabadi back in 19th century, right? खींचो ना कमानों को, न तलवार निकालो. खींचो ना कमानों को, न तलवार निकालो. जब तोप मुकाबिल हो, तो अखबार निकालो. Translated to the English, it says, do not draw your sword or bow, right? Don't throw a bow, throw an arrow. When the guns are useless, jab top muqabil, then bring out a newspaper. That's what Akbar Allahabadi had written in 19th century, before, much before independence, to show the power of newspapers. Right? And then let me give you another. This is Anwar Masood. He said, इस वक्त वहां कौन धुआं देखने जाए? इस वक्त वहां कौन धुआं देखने जाए? अखबार में पढ़ लेंगे कहां आग लगी है. Who will go to that place to see where there's a fire? We'll read in the newspaper tomorrow. So that was the faith, right? People had on newspaper. This actually happened. I have heard stories about Hindu, almost this. Okay. And it has come to this. Suna hai ab bikkar chapna hai, something like that, right? So what I'm trying to tell you, that the big question related to repositioning is also asserting the ethical side of media. Altruism has been the hallmark of Indian media for long. Will it continue with that tradition? Will it be able to embrace that again? These are the big questions in repositioning. And most of the questions, issues are technology agnostic. That means technology has nothing to do with it. Whether you continue with your analog technology or come to digital or employ cutting-edge artificial intelligence, if you do not have a foundation of ethics, newspapers will cease to be newspapers. News media will cease to be news media. Journalism will cease to be journalism. Journalism's hallmark is dependent on three attributes: Satya, truth; Nyaya, justice; and Dharma, righteousness. Not religion, righteousness. These three form the trinity of journalism. This is the core of journalism, formed over hundreds of years of rigor. So journalism in any platform, any form, whether you read news in a paper form, or in future you will have a device which you can keep in your pocket, some laser linked device, and you can switch it on and read newspaper on thin air, whatever may be the form. But these trinity forms the backbone of journalism. Otherwise, it will cease to be journalism. So media teachers need to teach this to the students. Journalists, practicing journalists should understand this. People, general people who rely on journalism for their fix of news, their need of information, their need of meaning, must understand this and see that the journalists get an environment in which they can stick to this trinity of journalism. Thank you very much. And now you can ask questions or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We are having certain questions. Sir, from Subham Dash, there is a question. The state of Odisha is less reported in national media so far as the news of pandemic or natural disaster is concerned. How do you look at the role of this bourgeois media in post-truth social order when most of the media houses have turned into the mouthpiece of government? So this is the question.
These are not questions really. These are some of the, in Hindi it's called bhadash. Andar ki jo bhadash hai wo nikal. And this state of Odisha is underreported in national media. You go to any state in India, there are 29 states. In every state, the same kind of bhadash is there. In Assam, they'll say कि Assam की बात तो कोई करता ही नहीं. In northeast states, the bhadash is even more. Because we are small, nobody looks at it. Everybody reports the other states, they forget we are here, right? So this, I don't think that's true. I mean, I don't think the state of Odisha is underreported. I don't think so. I don't think. The second part is, how do you look at the role of bourgeois media? Bourgeois media is capitalist. But media is a business, for God's sake. You have to pay salary to your journalists. So there has to be business. It's an industry. Now, the third thing is they have turned into the mouthpiece of government. And that is why I told you the changing revenue pattern. Why do any media house, right, turn into mouthpiece of either a corporate or government? Why? Two things, three rather. One is advertisement money, right? You need money to survive. You need money to make profit. They give you that. That's one. Two, government, because it has power, right? It can give you advertisement. It cannot give you advertisement. It can withhold those advertisements to punish you, right? So if you are not towing the government line, then probably it can withhold, make you non-functional. Without money, how do you survive? So some governments are, right, hypothetically, are forcing news media to be their mouthpieces. And some media in the companies, they're willingly become mouthpieces because they think that by doing this, they'll earn more money. Or probably their association with government will give them more money, more power, more of everything, right? There are 2-3 ways to fight this. One, in the changing revenue model, where the media organization will rely more on subscription base, more on its users, readers, basically readers, viewers, whatever, for sustenance, right? Then they will not have to rely on corporates for advertisement or the government for advertisement. That is one way, right? There are several newspapers across the world who are gradually turning towards this subscription model. Guardian, for example, is one. In India, there are a good number of websites which are funded by their subscribers. This is number one, like Print, like Quint, and there are so many. The second is, are you willing to fight the government or the ruling party or whatever? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to sacrifice? Right? If you are, go on, fight. If people want you to fight, they'll back you. You'll come out more stronger, like Indian Express did after emergency, like mainstream did after emergency, right? But you need to fight. Whether you will fight or not, that's up to you. That's up to that media house, right? And the third is, if you become very big, the stake becomes bigger. If you are a small outfit, then probably the way you fight, you gain an advantage in that. That's also one way out. Could be done. Thank you. Next, please.
So we have another question. Do we need more branches of journalism like medical sciences, technology, journalism, defense journalism, medical journalism, science journalism?
Look here, basic skill sets for journalism is the same. In science journalism, you need to know that domain well. Right? All these are which have been written. Say, for example, defense journalism. What exactly do you mean by defense? Reporting on defense-related affairs. For that, you need two sets of skills, or let's say understanding. One, how do you report? How do you write? How do you collect news? How do you collect news? These are basic core skills of journalism, which remains the same. The second part is defense. Second part is, say, technology, say medical, say health, say fashion, say anything. You need to pick up some domain knowledge to write about that. You need to understand. And for understanding, you need to have some knowledge about that. So if you have understanding, at least working knowledge, then probably you can write on that. So I guess more branches, the merrier. But university departments, they do have their own constraints. Right? So I guess there could be some 10, 15 options which students may opt for. Right? Next, please.
Dr. Jena?
Muted. Your microphone has been muted. The microphone has been, please unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am. Do you want to give some remark on it?
Yeah, actually the director, Dr. Bikram, wants to say something.
Okay.
He has been unmuted. Please unmute him. I think it is not happening. There's some technological glitches, I think.
Okay. Sir, now I am asking questions from my mobile. Is it okay, sir? Okay. Sir, my first question is to you. What is your ideas on Gramsci's ideas related to hegemonic approach about the propaganda theory or propaganda machinery in relate to the Habermas theory related to public sphere and public opinion? How could you relate these two best minds of communication is concerned? And my second question is, sir, one by one I can ask, or otherwise I can ask all and you go.
Right.
Okay.
When engaging with Gramsci and Habermas at one point is good enough to jam your mind. Now,
Okay.
What is public sphere that Habermas talked about? Habermas thought, or that's his theory, that in a society, right, what people talk about, except their without any personal agenda, right? When they talk about the state, when they talk about the good and bad of the community, right? Who's right, who's wrong, who's doing good, who's doing bad, what should be done. When it happens in public, that is what Habermas termed as public sphere, right? Now, quality of public sphere depends on quality of people engaging A, quality of people engaging with the discourse that will either take the discourse to the next level or bring it down to other level. Right? So quality of people, number one. And number two, the space that public sphere can occupy in a state. These are the two major factors of the quality of public sphere. Am I clear about that? Right?
Right, sir.
Am I absolutely clear about that? Unless you are allowed to have that kind of sphere, right, which the state might not give you, right? For example, in Afghanistan, Taliban is taking over. Do you think Taliban will allow a public sphere like that, where people will sit together, sipping tea and speaking against the Taliban? Will they allow? No. So quality of public sphere depends on the state allowing that kind of sphere, right? And second, the quality of people engaging with this kind of discourse. Now come to Gramsci. When he talks about hegemony, right? So he talks about the power of state and the power of people who has appropriated the state apparatus, right? So where does journalism fit? Journalism can secure this space for public sphere by constantly pushing the boundary. That's number one thing that journalism can do, should do. Right? Second is journalism, by introducing more thoughts, more thinking, more angles, diverse views, can improve the quality of discourse in that public sphere. That is the critical role journalism can do to improve the quality and broaden the boundary of public sphere. That's my take. And that's what journalism, good journalism should do. Next.
Sir, thank you so much, sir, for a wonderful answer. Sir, what is the role of media educators in terms of academic entrepreneurship or pedagogical practice? In terms of this Anthropocene, was you can rightly mention about the climate change, the climatic change. Do you feel the academic practitioners are very much concise about the world order? It's not about pandemic call or not about the policy frame. It's all about the educators, particular when people like you speak about climate. What is your views on this?
Two questions. The pedagogical changes. How do the media educator negotiate or trigger pedagogical changes? Now, teachers, I believe, are basically leaders who lead the students towards a greater, fairer path, right? They aid the students to go towards what will happen, how do they negotiate with that. That's the job of teachers. Pedagogy is how do you teach? What are the tools that you use? Right? Pedagogy also involves with what you teach and how you teach. Get my point? So I guess media educators need to be aware of the changing requirements, both in terms of technology, both in terms of requirement of people, and also they need to provide their students the ideological framework in which they need to work. These are the three things that the media educators need to do. And it's the job of senior professors like Mrinal Chatterjee to tell them that.
It's okay, sir. So post new media world analysis into hurry to showcasing the glamour and game of minds. Is it corporate pressure or avoid ethics? What do you feel?
Glamour, if you are talking about, it has been there in human psyche for 5,000 years, right? To look beautiful, to be in a position where people will look at me and get enamored. So that is human psyche. That will always remain, come what may. That will always remain. So the second thing is journalism's engagement with socially relevant issues. That is more important. And I guess media educators also need to focus on that area. This is more needed area. But having said that, the attraction for glamour will always be there. Always be there. Yeah. It's not a bad thing. I mean, if you take in measured way, it's not a bad thing. But in a measured way, I mean, everything should not be glamour and there's nothing else than this. Journalism is all about cinema, entertainment, cricket, and that's it. That's not the way journalism should function. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Another question is here: if a media or journalist neither have domain knowledge nor scientific temper, how can they verify pandemic reports and publish broadcast accordingly? Do you think there are drawbacks of media and media men? Yes, there are. That is one of the major problems of media, especially Indian media. We do not have a benchmark, right? Look around you. Half of our media persons, they are not fit to be journalists. Get my point? So they should have domain knowledge. Without domain knowledge, how do you report on a particular area? You need to have domain knowledge. If you do not have domain knowledge, pick up. That's what a journalist needs to do, right? Yes, Indian media is handicapped in a way that many of our journalists do not have domain knowledge, right? What they do is not journalism. What they do is, how do you put it? This is in Odiyata Banti Sambadi. Somebody says something, you come out and say the same thing. That's not proper journalism. You need to have domain knowledge. Yes. This is a question from Bimal Prashad. Yes.
Dr. Nupur, do you want to have put some remark? Or we'll go for what of things?
Am I
Dr.
clearly audible?
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, I would like to, there were some technological glitches, I guess. So first of all, I would like to thank Professor Mrinal sir, because his introduction is so large, like he has done a lot of contributions to this field. So it cannot be counted, and we are really very honored and privileged to have him over here. So sir has given a very important topic, that is media in the time of the pandemic, and how media has played a very important role. As we all know that media has been a great catalyst in these times. Like we should always respect the media personnel, because they were the people who were standing in the front line and were reporting us in the entire year of lockdown. I think their contribution to our society cannot be counted. It is uncountable. So I think that, sir, you have greatly explained about the journalists as being the frontline workers, how before the pandemic, how their role was there, and how after the pandemic, how it got acknowledged gradually. So then, sir, you have explained about the technology, how technology has been an important player in this particular field, and how we can use the maximum use of technology to circulate it to the entire audience. And then, sir, you have explained about the media educators and the media personnel who were there, and how they have been, and how could we spread this knowledge to the students of media as well as the entire people over here. So thank you so much, sir, for inbuilding in us the critical thinking concept, the critically how could we analyze everything. That is the most important thing that you have said, the critical education thing. So thank you so much, sir, for explaining these important concepts, and how we really acknowledge the role of media. I think media was the only thing that helped us to come out from this pandemic situation. And today also, we look up to the media to know what has happened in the society, how things are going on, how should we keep ourselves safe. So I think media has given us all the protocols and all the guidelines to keep ourselves safe in these testing times of pandemic. So thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us. And I think it was really a very, very empowering session for all of us. And next, I would like to thank all the participants over here who were here and who have been here and making the session all more informative. And I would also like to thank the organizer, Dr. Bikram Kesari, and his entire staff of Rudra, Dr. Samuel, and all the other members who have been over here. So thank you so much. And last but not the least, all the people who have come here and made the session more and more enlightening. But my special thanks to sir, Professor Mrinal sir, the way he has explained it, I think it was really inspiring for me. The way sir has explained it, I think it is really, sir, I'm really very thankful to you, sir, for coming here and giving this brilliant session. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.